Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain. Day 156 of the current situation, and today it's all about restrictions. Travel restrictions, smoking restrictions, nightlife restrictions. Restrictions is the word of the day. Firstly, a big thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, let's get into some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. As I said, it's all about restrictions. Some countries in the EU have decided to put in tighter border controls, and we can see here that Brussels has warned of travel restrictions in the EU and asks to apply PCR tests and quarantines instead. The European Commission insists that border closures and travel restrictions cause disruptions that must be avoided as much as possible. The increase in coronavirus cases at the EU level and the measures that each country has established to try to contain the pandemic alert Brussels. The European Commission has expressed concern about the new travel restrictions that several European governments have applied and advocated applying measures such as quarantines and mandatory tests to travellers instead of closing borders completely to avoid disruption. So the EU Commission worried about individual countries taking measures into their own hands and putting border restrictions in place again, like they did earlier in the year when virtually all the European borders were closed and there was no inter-European travel. Now, we have seen in recent times many European countries recommending against travelling to places like Spain and also imposing quarantines on people returning from Spain. And we can see here that the Netherlands has decided to extend its quarantine rule to travellers from Madrid, Ibiza, Mallorca, Almería, Burgos, Navarra and Salamanca. These Spanish areas have been added to the quarantine requirement that was previously only on travellers arriving from Barcelona and Zaragoza. And some 40,000 German tourists will also leave the Balearic Islands after the recommendation not to travel to Spain. The recommendation of the German government not to travel to Spain due to the coronavirus pandemic will cause in the coming days a real mass exodus of tourists of this nationality, especially from points such as the Balearic Islands, where some 40,000 German tourists are expected to leave throughout this week. So 40,000 German tourists have decided to cut their holidays to the Balearic Islands short. Remember that the Canary Islands is the only place in Spain that is not on that quarantine list. And as we saw the other day, this is a real blow to tourism in the Balearic Islands, who in the past have depended on British and German tourists, and of course take those two groups away and dire straits for those islands. Now, we saw last week that the Spanish central government coordinated with the autonomous communities a series of new restrictions throughout Spain that include no smoking in public areas and also a restriction on nightlife. We can see here that Andalusia, Cantabria, Castilla, Leon and Galicia have activated these measures against the regrowth in cases. Two areas, Murcia and La Rioja, had already implemented measures to contain the coronavirus outbreaks. This week will begin with 5 of the 17 autonomous communities applying the measures which affect 7 areas: nightlife, hospitality, social health centres, mass events, specific screenings and alcohol and tobacco consumption. Among the most outstanding measures are the closure of nightlife and the prohibition of smoking in public spaces where it is not possible to keep a 2-metre safety distance. So lots of new restrictions coming into place this week. So check in your particular autonomous community if the restrictions have come into place or not, regarding smoking in public areas, of course, and restrictions on nightlife to nightclubs and social gatherings, which I think have been limited again to 10 people. Now, of course, all of these measures are being put in place because the government doesn't want to go to another confinement situation. They want to try to avoid that strict lockdown, but case numbers have been on the increase, and it is a worrying time for the governments in Spain. The president of Aragon, one of Spain's 17 autonomous communities, has come out and said that the temptation to confine is going to occur, but it would definitely ruin this country. Aragon has 33 regions, and in 30 of them, the president assures, the situation is absolutely normal. Aragon, of course, along with Catalonia, has been one of the main hotspots for outbreaks in Spain in recent times. But according to the president, the situation is absolutely normal. Now, the big question that a lot of people in Spain and around the world have been asking themselves is, why is Spain, the European leader in contagion, if we all wear a mask. The insufficiency of this measure to contain the virus encourages hoaxes and creates tensions in primary care. A lot of Spaniards are perplexed as to why Spain is the European country with the most infections, despite the fact that prevention measures are more visible. The article mentions that the confinement measures that the Spanish government took were strict but successful. However, the subsequent management of the de-escalation left a lot to be desired. One expert says that the de-escalation was precipitous. For fear that the economy would sink further, the government wanted to reactivate tourism immediately so as not to miss the tourist season, which produced more mobility. They spoke of the new normal, conveying a message of relaxation that has been counterproductive. In a health crisis of this magnitude, you cannot swim and put your clothes away at the same time, says this expert. Another one of the problems, according to the article, was political mismanagement. We can see here that erratic mismanagement of the pandemic gives wings to anti-mask protesters and other deniers of COVID-19. The ineffective political management of the pandemic has given wings to the propagators of another type of virus, hoaxes. At the end of July, the platform Doctors for the Truth was presented in Madrid. At that presentation, they defended that wearing a mask can cause respiratory diseases, among other falsehoods. They are groups that spread messages to appeal to our emotions, and that is why they become more viral, explains Alexandre López Borrell, Professor of Communication at the UOC. As it is hot and the mask is overwhelming, what you want to hear is that it is useless, and that idea is the one that circulates, he reasons. So ineffective political management of the pandemic, adding fuel to the conspiracy theorists' fire. Now, on a similar note, yesterday in Madrid there was a demonstration where some 3,000 people without masks, all following social distancing rules, decided to protest against anti-COVID measures. The people that attended this demonstration called the pandemic a farce and consider the measures a cut in freedoms. And the central government's delegation in Madrid will today investigate the anti-mask demonstration in Madrid, and they say that action will be taken for failure to comply with essential health guidelines. So some 3,000 people coming together yesterday in Madrid to protest. Not really sure who the organisers of the protest were, but one of the most visible promoters of the demonstration was a Spanish singer called Miguel Bosé. Well, he's a Spanish singer, entertainer in general. He's also been in films and done other things in the artistic sphere, but he is now probably Spain's most well-known conspiracy theorist. And he's very big on social media, talking about some of the main hoaxes going around at the moment. He also pushes the anti-vaccine point of view and other conspiracy theories. And as a result of some of his views, he has copped a lot of negative criticism in recent times, especially from some of his peers in the music industry. And a lot of people just generally think that Mr. Bosé has lost the plot. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from the last video. One here from Seamus: love your daily updates and I look forward to going back to my little apartment in Fuengirola when the pandemic is over. Saludos, Seamus in Dublin. Yeah, Seamus, thanks for the comment and sorry to see that you haven't been able to get to your little apartment in Fuengirola this summer, but I'm sure that in the future when all of this dies down, you will be able to get back and enjoy your apartment there in the sun. But the question that still remains is, when is it all going to be over? One here from Petey: gracias Stuart, me gustaría ver un video sobre tu aprendizaje de español. Yeah, Petey, thanks for the comment. They're asking me about how I learnt Spanish. Well, I'll give you a brief rundown on what I did to learn the language. I first came to Spain many years ago and I was frustrated by the fact that I couldn't communicate. So when I went back to Australia, I decided to enroll myself in a place there called TAFE, which is like some type of community college where you can learn different things. I did that for a couple of years, picked up all of the basics, the past, the present, the future, vocabulary and all of those things, going to a class once a week, I think it was, with a teacher from Spain. Her name was Carmen, and I think there was about 10 of us in the course at the time. Then I decided to take it a little bit further, so I went to university and did a degree in language studies, of course with Spanish being the primary language. And basically what I did there was throw myself in at the deep end, because in the course there were people from Spain, El Salvador, Chile, Argentina. There were lots of native Spanish speakers. I think there was only 2 non-native speakers doing the course, and it was very difficult the first year. But in the summer holidays I went to Argentina to learn the language there, traveled around there with a backpack to pick up the language, and then in the summer holidays on the second year I went to Spain to also reinforce what I had learnt. And then everything started to fall into place. got more confidence, and the rest is history. One here from Wendy. I really enjoy your daily updates, Stuart. If you have the time and energy to continue, please don't stop yet. You are keeping my Spanish dreams alive until I can physically visit the wonderful peninsula again. Wendy. Yeah, Wendy, thanks for the comment. I've got the time. It's just the question of the energy. I took a day off yesterday in order to recharge the batteries a little bit. And of course, today I'm back fresh and we'll see how long I can continue. But it's not easy putting out a video every day. I'll give you the tip. But I'll try to keep the videos going for as long as I can. And I'll try to keep, as you say, your Spanish dreams alive. Because I know there's lots of people like yourself, Wendy, that want to come and visit the country this year, but obviously can't. Especially people in the States, people in Canada, people in countries around the world that have those travel restrictions at the moment, and it can be frustrating because there's so many people in the world that love Spain as a country, and this year is, of course, a bit of an inconvenience. One here from Paco. Hi Stuart, I always thought La Coruña was the best place in the peninsula to spend the summer for those who don't like neither the sun nor the heat, but you've proved me wrong, as Peniche seems to be a much better place. That's why me quito el sombrero. Yeah, Paco, thanks for the comment. Of course, the north of Spain is the area where people go in general to avoid the heat. A lot of people from the hot interior regions of Spain travel to the north trying to get a bit of cooler weather. I found this place here in Portugal where the temperature never gets very, very hot, never really gets above 23 or 24 degrees. You've seen the videos that I've been doing from here where it's been overcast a lot of the time at around 20, 21. It's a very constant temperature. You sleep well at night, and that is what I look for in summer, because Madrid can be an absolute nightmare from a temperature point of view in July and August. One here from Paul. Echar leña al fuego, add fuel to the fire. Yeah, Paul, thanks for the comment. You are right. That is the expression from the other day, the Spanish expression, echar leña al fuego, add fuel to the fire. And today's expression is zapatero a sus zapatos. One here from Wild Heart. You're so right about Spanish verbs. When I studied Spanish at A level with a view to going on to uni to study it, I was taught by a wise old gentleman who taught my father, and he furnished me with an old O-level Spanish grammar book, which I slowly, chapter by chapter, worked my way through. Everything then fell into place. Sometimes the old ways are the best. Yeah, thanks for the comment. You're right. Sometimes the old ways are the best. Those old books, the more traditional ways of learning Spanish or learning any other language in general. But what I have learned over the years is that there are many, many different ways to learn. Some people like books, some people like a more visual approach, watching movies, watching television and things like that. Some people like a more social way of learning, for example, and some people, of course, like a mix of different things. But one of the most important things when it comes to learning a language, don't give up. One here from David. The government should and must compensate those businesses like nightclubs for this year so they can afford to close their businesses until further notice. It's going to be very unpleasant times for many or all, and the people should start being more responsible and keep up with good health and improve their immune systems. Please try to kick those bad habits like drinking and smoking, which are health hazards, and I know it is very hard to change habits. Unfortunately, many young people are not so concerned. Unfortunately, many young people are not really concerned that much about this situation, and they need to take this matter very seriously. We all need to take part in the crisis and work together to bring our lives back to normal, hopefully. Yeah, David, thanks for the comment. That has been one of the messages from the beginning. We're all in this together. The majority seem to get it, but as we have seen, there is a minority that just can't get it into their heads, unfortunately. Smoking and drinking are bad habits, but very hard habits to kick, as you said. And I agree with you that we should be as healthy as possible. Should the government compensate businesses that are being forced to close down? Absolutely. But where are they going to get the money from? That's the question. One here from Rob. Social distancing from Bill Gates. Yeah, thanks for the comment, and excuse my ignorance, but I've never really understood the Bill Gates connection. I've had people try to explain it to me, but I just can't seem to get my head around it. I'm sure Bill Gates can't get his head around it either. And why he has become the scapegoat for all of the conspiracy theorists out there, I will never know. And finally, one here from Robert. When I moved to Spain 15 years ago to a small village in Castilla-La Mancha, my Spanish was not good, and I sat in a little farmer's bar not saying hardly anything. They said to me, just spurt it out. If you get your masculine and feminine, past and present, etc. around the wrong way, don't worry. We will probably understand what you were trying to say. They used to correct me if I completely cocked it up, usually with a giggle. Words that I could just not get, they made me say it 10 times. As soon as I went back, I was made to say that word again. So don't be shy, cock it up and give them a laugh. But it won't be a derisive laugh. Most will help you. Yeah, Robert, thanks for the comment and some good advice there for people learning a language. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid to cock it up, as he says. Don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself, people understand that you're learning the language, and the majority are going to try to help you do it. As he said, people tried to help him correct his pronunciation, they tried to get him to speak in a proper way, and of course it took time, but I'm sure he got there in the end. And you don't have to be a perfectionist. You don't have to pronounce everything perfectly. You don't have to get that masculine and feminine thing correct all the time, but just make sure you don't pronounce the word for chicken in Spanish, pollo, with an A on the end. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. See you in the next one. Hasta luego.